Oh, you're muted, Aisha.
Let me start that over. Hello, hello. My name is Aisha Harley, and I am one of the founders of the Visionary Leaders Collective. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our live call and our podcast, where we honor the gifts of the earth and dive deep into wellness solutions using essential oils and other medicinal plants. If you would like to learn more about all of our community offerings, please visit www.hellovisionary.life. Please also follow us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. In addition, we would be very grateful if you would take the time to give us a 5-star rating on our podcast. We have incredible topics each week, so be sure to come back and bring your friends. Today, we are discussing how to keep your thyroid healthy and in balance. We will be hearing from Amy Fredrickson and Mandy Garber. They will each be sharing their personal stories and protocols about their journey with hypothyroid management. We will also be hearing from our doctors, Dr. Josie and Dr. Louise Rose, who will be educating us about thyroid health and the triad of our organ function. We will then open up the call for our community discussion. If you are new to essential oils and doTERRA, please know by the end of this call, you will know the 3 cool things about essential oils, the 3 ways to use essential oils, why doTERRA is set apart from all the rest, and how to get these beautiful oils and products into your home at the very best price. So it is my absolute pleasure. We're going to start the call off with Amy Fredrickson, and she is going to share her personal story. Are you ready, Amy?
I am. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Amy Fredrickson, and I am 45 years old. And I have to preface this with, I get a little emotional when I talk about my own health journey because it's been a long one. So if I get a little shaky in my voice, I apologize in advance. So I am a special educator. I live in Portland, Oregon. Just moved here this past year after being gone for a few years and really enjoy it over here. And my journey began when I was about 32 years old, and it was about 2008. I had just finished my master's degree after my 10-year graduation plan. And I didn't really feel healthy. I had sinus issues, I had digestive issues, and I was a teacher, so I was getting sick all the time. And I started to explore some food allergies after a friend of mine had some success visiting a naturopath. And so I decided to go to the naturopath she went to, and it was a little woo-woo for me. She's like, I'm going to read your meridians and tell you what your issues are. And I was like, what is that? And it all kind of started from there. I discovered I was allergic to dairy, which I had been suspicious of. And once I eliminated that, I felt so much better. I lost about 10 pounds, but like I said, that was just the beginning. My mom had been a part of roller coaster dieting for her whole life that I can remember. And I didn't want to follow in her footsteps. And I knew that I needed to make some things happen in my life to prevent that. And I was about the same age that she was when she got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I did not want to follow in her footsteps. I was petrified that I would have those same experiences as she did, and did not want to have to take all of those really harsh medications. I was overweight and I needed to take action so that I wouldn't develop an autoimmune disease and or something more severe. So I finally found a doctor who took the time to listen to me and tell me what was going on and help me understand what was going on in my body and what would happen if I didn't follow that path, or if I kept following that path, excuse me. I discovered I was pre-diabetic, and I knew that my grandfather had experienced that in his older age, and I didn't want to have to deal with insulin and needles and all of that. And I knew that I had to fix things before things got worse. My doctor and I discussed lifestyle changes versus dieting, and she gave me some simple steps to start. Just diet and supplements. She's, suggested me going on paleo. I was really resistant to it. Tried Whole30, that didn't work. And I just discovered that paleo had a very structured outline to it, and I needed to follow the rules. And I was a rule follower. So that was something that was easy for me to do. This was about 2015, and after about 9 months, I had lost about 30 pounds, and that was huge, huge for me. But my journey wasn't over yet. In 2017, I moved to the coast, took on a very high stress job, and experienced a divorce. And I realized that I had no self-love, I had no self-care, and I still wasn't feeling healthy, and I needed to reset. I felt tired, I felt worn down. I actually joined the Mindset Makeover in 2018, focused on loving myself, and that was the core of my journey. I found a new doctor, and she confirmed some of my suspicions of having some hormone issues and having adrenal fatigue, which was all related back to that stress issue. And I needed to find ways to lower my stress and balance those things out. I also found out that I had low thyroid, which were all contributing to my weight issues. So my biggest thing is I didn't want to have to take pharmaceuticals. I didn't want to have to take a synthetic thyroid. And so that's kind of when I met up with Andrea, and I was like, I need to learn more about doTERRA. And so I kind of jumped into that and started out with, really small baby steps. I started with the LLV, PB Assist, and Terrazyme, and made that a part of my daily routine. And then she gifted me the Modern Essentials book. And I loved, I'm a research freak. And so I just started researching on how oils can supplement for me. And then I started running, and I started getting healthy, and I learned to enjoy exercise, which was a first for me. So my daily routine with my protocols, I do the LLV, Terrazyme, PB Assist. I take lots of other supplements to support my adrenal fatigue. I did start with a ThyroCare from Restorative Formulations, and I take that twice a day. And my thyroid roller, it's one of the first things I put on after my shower with peppermint, clove, and lemongrass. And then I use tons of other essential oils for my hormone balance. Being a teacher, I take the antiviral stuff to help me with that, with the On Guard Plus, and to support my adrenal fatigue. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't had to resort to any medication. What I hope for the future, I've had doctors tell me I'm fat. I've had doctors tell me that my duty in life was to produce babies. I've had doctors that told me if I didn't change my life, I was going to die. But I noticed that scare tactics didn't work for me. I had to find someone who would take the time to listen and to understand, and to help me start understanding my body. And I was the only one who could make a change in my life. It was the conscious decision I had to make on my own. Once I saw those small changes in my life, I researched other ways to support healthy habits in my other aspects of my life. Diet and supplements aren't alone the cure-all. Medication isn't a cure-all. Self-care, exercise, meditation, oils, those have all really been, it's a whole package. It's not one isolated thing that's made me realize how I could follow the path to a healthy me. But I had to make mistakes. I'm not perfect with my paleo diet. I'm definitely not perfect with all my supplements. But I hope that as I get older, that I can fine tune things and hone in on what my body is telling me, and listen to what it's telling me that it needs.
Oh, thanks so much, Amy. I want to just chime in on one thing in case there's people listening that are brand new to essential oils. We often talk about roller bottles, And what we mean is, I don't have one, and it's a podcast, so I guess you can't see anyways, but we mean filling up a 10 milliliter bottle that has a roller top on it with the oils and fractionated coconut oil, and it makes it really easy to apply. Your story was so incredible, Amy. I had chills listening to it. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to turn it back to Aisha.
Yes, thank you. It's such a powerful reminder of making those changes, right? The power of diet, exercise, stress management, proper supplementation, and those essential oils. Really, I have found that there's so many different health issues. And whenever somebody comes and talks to me about their health issue, if we go back to those basics and make the shifts where the shifts need to happen, that in itself can transform so many things. So thank you for sharing. Next, we are going to hear from Mandy Garber, and she's also going to share her journey with balancing her thyroid.
Great, thanks, Aisha. Can you guys all hear me okay? My name is Mandy Garber. I live in Beaverton, Oregon, and I'm a mom of 2 young kids. I've always been pretty healthy, never really had like any major issues. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, it was July of 2020, I did my blood work and I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So my thyroid number should be no more than like 2.5 in the first trimester of when you're pregnant, and mine was at a 4.1. So I was like almost double. And the thought of like taking a prescription medication, especially when I was pregnant, just kind of like really threw me off. I've never taken a prescription med, and I didn't want to start, especially when I was pregnant. So I really wanted to see what I could do and lean on my natural solutions. And I just love our oil community too, because I really leaned on our community for help, and again, doing some of my own research. So I talked to my midwife, who was also my naturopath physician too. And I was like, what can I do to avoid this prescription medication? And she was super open to looking over all my supplements and what I wanted to do. And so she's like, let's just do your protocol. So what I did was I took the full pack of the lifelong vitality. So the full dose, meaning, so I usually was just kind of taking like a half a dose, like every so often. So I upped it to the full dose, and that was also my prenatal vitamins. I didn't take any other prenatal vitamins. And then I added in a roller bottle, similar to what Amy was using. I did a roller bottle of a blend of lavender, lemongrass, frankincense, myrrh, and clove. And we have that protocol, and you guys will get emailed that as well. So I decided to just do those 2 things. And I really didn't change a whole lot of other like diet wise, exercise wise things. I wasn't really experiencing a lot of the symptoms of hypothyroidism, as far as like massive fatigue and all that type of stuff, like outside of just being pregnant. I mean, I was I was early pregnancy anyway, so I was like, well, I'm kind of just having these normal like pregnancy fatigues anyway. So I'm really curious if my numbers were more normal, if I would have been feeling different. But so I applied this roller bottle blend just as often as I could. So I just put it out on my counter, so when I see it, I just used it. So my goal was like a couple times a day. So I was really excited to try these, and I kind of like wanted to like prove like to my doctor, I'm like, these things are going to work. I'm like so excited to like get these numbers down. And so where my thyroid was at, it was pretty dangerous to me and my baby. So I was concerned, but I felt confident enough in these natural solutions to see what they would do. So in August, about a month later, I tested my blood again, and my numbers went down to a 3.9. So almost like a whole number down. And then in November, so a couple months later, my numbers was down to 2.74. So like almost dropped down to like double. So this was in like the normal range. My doctor said, my midwife was like, the thyroid looks good. And then I had my baby late January, and then in February, so right after I had my daughter, I tested my blood again and I was at a 1.9. So all the way up from a 4.1 when I first got diagnosed, like all the way down. And it actually was kind of like in the lower range now. So what my midwife wanted me to do was to get on a herbal supplement for thyroid. And I did that. So I felt a little bit more comfortable with doing that. But as I was comparing those ingredients with the herbal thyroid supplement that she gave me, it was so similar to the Mito 2 Max supplement that doTERRA has. And so I was like, well, just going to lean on my doTERRA products even more, like they have gotten me through. So now postpartum, I take the Mito 2 Max as well. I am not a caffeine drinker. I don't need energy from that. Like I've never needed that. Like even having a toddler and a newborn with my Mito 2 Max and my oils, I can literally get through the day. So I'm excited. I'm actually going next week to test my blood again. It's been my daughter's 18 months now. So I'm excited to kind of see what those numbers look like now. And I think like the cool thing about using these natural solutions is, yes, most of this is like hypothyroidism too, but again, these oils will balance out, right? And put our bodies back in this like level of homeostasis. So even though my thyroid then kind of dipped lower after I had my daughter, I didn't change anything that I was doing, right? Like this thyroid roller bottle blend that I made up in my Lifelong Vitality, I just kept doing the same thing. So, and even over this course of having my daughter too, I've never felt those symptoms of the thyroid either. So again, like no massive energy drop or brain fog or what like that. So outside of just being a mom and dealing with that all day. So I'm just so thankful of my oil community and then having these supplements and oils to help get me through this time, especially being pregnant and not wanting to put any more in my body that I don't need for me and baby. So just so grateful for everybody and everybody's support. So thank you for letting me share that.
Mandy, thank you so much. I have your protocol up here on the screen, and I would actually love to hear from each of you. I would love to know how many times a day you apply your roller bottle blend and where you apply it to on your body.
That's a great question. Thanks. So my ideal goal was like 3 or 4 times a day to apply it, right? So I think it was Dr. Josie that says small, frequent daily doses. So that's what I remember. So more often, little times a day. So I just kind of put it on my bathroom counter, and every time I walked in the bathroom and I saw it, I used it and I rolled it right over my thyroid, which is right over like your lower, like your neck. Like if you swallow and it kind of makes that bulge, like that's kind of where you want to roll it over. So right over that thyroid. And I just kind of used it as many times as I could. And there were some days where I didn't use it because I was too tired of having a baby or whatever. And other times I was really good at it. So just as often as I could.
Perfect. And how about you, Amy? How many times did you apply your roller bottle?
I feel like I don't really remember in the very beginning, but I'm a little OCD, so I probably did it way more than I needed to. But I was just looking at the chat comments, and Erin reminded me that I also at the beginning was using that reflexology and applying it to the base of my foot where the thyroid correlated with. But right now I just use it daily after I get out of the shower. I just kind of rub it on my throat and my neck.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I haven't seen the chat, Erin. Are there any questions in there that we want to address before we hand the call over to Dr. Josie?
I think the main question was where to apply, and no other questions. And I will just point out, if you're new to essential oils, always do a patch test to see if your skin is sensitive or not. And just one more reminder that if you for some reason can't apply it to your neck, like maybe you have sensitive skin here or various other reasons, you always have that reflex point to apply. So you can Google foot reflexology and you'll get the map. But in case you want to know, it's the bottom of your big toe, right at the base. where it meets the rest of your foot. And next week on the podcast, tune in because Diane Del Reyes will be sharing her oil acupoints. So she is an acupuncturist and she has connected different meridians on the body and where you apply the essential oils. It's such a good question, and how great that we can quickly like apply it wherever we are inspired to. But I still remember the day that I dealt with a headache by massaging peppermint into my big toe. And I was like, what? That's so cool. So I'm glad that we were able to bring up the reflexology part about all of this.
Right? Just like you could put breathe on an infant's feet to help clear up congestion in the lungs. So applying to the feet is so powerful. Well, I'm going to pass the call over to our community doctors. Dr. Josie Schmidt is with us today, as well as Dr. Louise Rose, and they are going to talk more about thyroid health. I'll pass it over to you, Dr. Josie.
Thank you, Aisha. Hi, everyone. So thank you so much, Mandy and Amy, for sharing your experiences with us. And I love your experiences because they really point out this idea of functional medicine and how, right, when our bodies start to have disturbances, when they are going in out of alignment, out of balance, it's not just one thing. And one of the things that as naturopaths, we like to point out that the thyroid is really intricately connected with our other hormones and organ systems. And so there's a known triad. I should spoke to this in the introduction of the thyroid being really connected to our adrenals. So our organs that produce and work with our stress hormones, and also the ovaries. So then all of our sex hormones that have to do with our cycles. And we see that interplay between symptoms and disturbances when people are having potentially thyroid issues. And so it's not usually a clear picture. Let me go over some of the symptoms that people might be working with when they have a thyroid that is out of balance, or you're questioning, hey, do I have a thyroid issue? And what does that look like? You would potentially see things like, one of the most common things is fatigue and sluggishness, unexplained weight gain, an increased sensitivity to cold, constipation. But then you might also see things in the body like muscle aches, tenderness, stiffness of joints, joint pain, muscle weakness. And then you could see mental emotional issues as well, depression, memory lapses, some memory issues, and then also pointing to the hormonal connection, excessive or prolonged bleeding with the menses. Those would be some of the things you would be looking at. And so you can see how it interplays and interconnects. And in our two shares that we had today from Mandy and Amy, what you see is a thyroid starting to have a functional issue, and they took action with their whole health, right? So they worked with looking into their diet, to making changes, getting support and help on many different levels. And through doing that, their body was able to correct. And that's a really wonderful thing to remember. So in the beginning stages of a thyroid starting to have some functional problems, it's really correctable by, and many things are, but this is one that is, you can really adjust with lifestyle changes and really good supplementation. And then this plant medicine is so powerful. One thing I wanted to bring up before I want to bring Dr. Louise Rose in with this conversation, because she works with many patients with thyroid issues, is that most of the time, I think, and Louise, please correct me, about upwards of 90% of hypothyroid, so low functioning thyroid, those are the issues, that's the most common. I'm just really addressing that here when I listed off the symptoms. About 90% of hypothyroid is actually autoimmune. There's a fancy name for this, it's called Hashimoto's, but it's just an autoimmune hypothyroid. And so the majority of what we're seeing in this beginning dysfunctional state is an autoimmune tendency that is getting triggered and is starting to then affect its first organ. And we call it a lot of the times the canary in the coal mine, the thyroid, with autoimmune conditions, because it's one of the most common and first organs that gets zeroed in on and affected when an autoimmune state gets really triggered in a body. And so please keep that in mind. If you are thinking that you're having if you're having thyroid issues, you also want to be checking out, and I want to ask Louise about this, checking out your thyroid panel and some of your thyroids, but you really want to also be looking at your antibodies with your thyroid because you need to rule this out. So Louise, let's bring you in. This is Dr. Louise Rose. So Dr. Rose, when you are working with a patient, what is your thought process like? Can you help us with that a little bit? I think it's really going to elucidate a lot for people.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Hi. So hypothyroid is super, super common. It's just getting more and more increasingly common. And I think, my hunch is because we live in such a toxic world and we're under so much stress. But like Josie explained, we have hypothyroid and hyperthyroid, but we're really just talking about hypothyroid today, which means an under-functioning thyroid. And then within that category, we have the autoimmune condition that causes hypothyroid and then other random conditions that cause hypothyroid. So in typical conventional biomedical model, if you get diagnosed with hypothyroid, they will just give you a hormone supplement and say, let's test you in a few months. And you come back and you get tested and eventually your numbers look really normal. But many, many people, even with their numbers looking normal, still don't feel good. And I think it's because MDs are not really trained to look for the underlying cause of what's going on, what's causing the dysfunction to begin with. So as a naturopath, we're trained really to treat the person and not just the labs. And if you've jumped into the thyroid world at all, there's some controversy about how to interpret the labs. Naturopaths have a tendency to sort of have a different range that we consider normal than an MD. So we're looking at things like T3 and T4. Those things sound familiar. The T3 is the active form of the hormone. T4 gets converted into T3, and the T3 is what gives you the energy and the metabolism and all that good stuff. When our T3 and T4 are low, our brain gets stimulated to produce something called thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. And then TSH stimulates more thyroids. So it's this wonderful feedback loop. So those are the kind of the things that we're looking at. And so what are the underlying causes, and why do certain people have problems with thyroid, and what would I be looking at if I did some labs and someone came in and they're complaining of these hypothyroid symptoms that Josie described and our speakers described? So we're always looking for underlying causes and triggers of, so if we're looking at autoimmunity, triggers can be definitely the gut. Almost always any sort of autoimmune condition, there's going to be leaky gut. And we've talked about this before, where the cells in the gut lining get too leaky, and then our food, proteins, bigger proteins than are supposed to be allowed through into our bloodstream are allowed through. And our immune system says, freak out, must attack. And you may have heard that if you're hypothyroid, you need to be extra careful about avoiding gluten. And one of the reasons is because there's a protein in gluten that looks just like our thyroid tissue. So if we have leaky gut and we are eating gluten, our body can overreact to this gluten protein, and as a side effect, start attacking our thyroid. So if we're having an autoimmune kind of hypothyroid, in the beginning, you might have symptoms that look like hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. So you can alternate back and forth. And the reason is because if your immune system gets revved up, like you eat a bunch of pizza or toast, your own immune system is attacking your thyroid gland. The tissue is spilling out the T4 and T3 into your bloodstream, and that causes the hyper feeling. So you might have a racing heart, anxiety, diarrhea, feeling shaky, can't sleep, overheated. But then a week later, you might crash. You might feel like you can't get out of bed. You can't poop. You're feeling so depressed and just so fatigued. So that's kind of early Hashimoto's. And then over time, as more and more of the tissue gets damaged, then you get more and more hypothyroid. So looking at the triggers, healing the gut, other triggers can be dysbiosis. We talk a lot about the microbiome being really important. Underlying chronic infections can be a really big trigger for autoimmune thyroiditis. And nutrients depletion too is a really important piece, because, you know, in that model that I was talking about, where if you just take the thyroid hormone and you don't actually fix or repair anything that's going on underneath that, then you're still not going to feel good. So some of the nutrients that the thyroid needs are selenium, iron, vitamin A, vitamin E, all the B vitamins, vitamin K, iodine, and zinc. And almost all people with hypothyroid are zinc deficient, and that prevents the conversion of T4 to T3. So your doctor could run your labs, your T4 looks great, but if you're deficient in these nutrients, you're not going to be able to make the active form of thyroid hormone that's going to make you feel good. So where are we going to get all those nutrients? Lifelong vitality back, right? So important, and one of the reasons why so many people just start feeling better when they get on the lifelong vitality pack. Let's see. So we want to remove the triggers, whether it's an infection, the gut bacteria, repair the leaky gut, replete the nutrients. Diet is really important, as our speakers have shared with us. And I'll have people just eliminate sometimes the top inflammatory foods. And if you haven't done our group detox with our team here, we have a great detox program that I recommend doing a couple times a year. And that's one of the best ways to figure out which foods are triggering inflammation for you. So the top foods that I recommend removing would be gluten, dairy, soy, eggs, corn, nuts, shellfish, sugar. Toxic seed oils like canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, those are really inflammatory as well, and alcohol. So removing those is going to allow your whole system to calm down. The inflammation is going to calm down. Your gut is going to start to heal that lining of the gut, so you won't have leaky gut anymore. And then you'll start to be able to actually absorb all those nutrients that you need for those organs to function properly. Like Josie said, the adrenal, the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, is really important. And we know that when we're under a lot of stress, our cortisol is high. And that is another thing that interferes with the conversion of T4 to T3. So if you are dealing with a thyroid challenge, then you need to be supporting your adrenal glands.
Mhm.
Mito2 Max is a fabulous way to do that. We also want to make sure that we're managing our blood sugar, because when we have blood sugar spikes and drops, that is one of the biggest triggers of adrenal stress that we have. So we have some great products that support blood sugar. Our Slim and Sassy is amazing. Geranium is a beautiful oil to work with. And coriander also. You can put those in a capsule and take them internally and work on getting your blood sugar stabilized. We heard from Mandy that thyroid was dysregulated during pregnancy, and that is really common when we're under a hormonal transition or change. That is often when the thyroid can get kind of pulled out of dysregulation. So pregnancy, menopause, if we're on oral contraceptives, that can be another trigger. Toxins and endocrine disruptors in our diet and in our products that we clean our houses with and our cosmetics, those are another big factor that we really need to clean up if you want to feel good and get your thyroid functioning well. So, you know, in my house, we use the Abode cleaner. Lemon is amazing, as we just learned today on our A to Z call. Purify, On Guard, those are great non-toxic cleaning products that really work. And then I would recommend really just like using the citrus oils in your water every day, adding a little frankincense in your water, which is going to just gently detox our liver. So our liver, if our liver is clogged up, that's another way that the T4 to T3 conversion gets sluggish. And also all our estrogen, progesterone, all that stuff goes through our liver. So we want to just keep that flowing. That's an easy way to do it. So just to kind of sum up my overview of how I would approach a patient who is hypothyroid, I would look at food sensitivities, gluten. I would look to remove any toxin triggers, any endocrine disruptors. If there's any underlying infections that need to be addressed, like sometimes people have oral health, chronic infections, or other viral things that they're fighting off. We really want to work on healing the gut and repairing the intestinal barrier. So we want to work with products like Terrazyme. PB Assist is our great probiotic. GX Assist if you need to do any cleansing of the colon. And then our fiber product is so great. I love it so much. And it really feeds the microbiome. It feeds the good bacteria that we're trying to grow. And oftentimes in people with hypothyroid, they're constipated to begin with, which slows down our detox pathways too. So get that fiber, get that water and lemon going. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we're addressing our adrenal function and balancing our blood sugar and making sure our hormones are detoxified. So that's my overview. Are there any questions out there?
Do we have any? I know someone wanted your list again.
The list of foods?
Yes, of the top inflammatory foods to.
I'll type it into the chat.
Yeah, let's type it into the chat. If there's a lot, right? We went over, and depending on what is going on for each individual might be coming with different symptoms. But I think as a take home, I might summarize everything you said as where's a general place to start. And I think that would be trialing in for like a month, anti-inflammatory diet, taking out some of those top things that Dr. Louise is going to put in the chat, starting with the LLV as you're bringing the inflammation down to get that nutrient up, add in the Mitomax to really be supporting your adrenals, and then get those. I loved Mandy's roller bottle, your roller ball blend for topical application on the thyroid, getting those 4 to 5 oils. And you can also be doing them, rubbing them, layering them on the bottoms of the feet as well. And then you can work from there. You can start also on your general gut health. So within what we like to call the Healthy Habits Kit. So I think, Erin, you're going to take over, is not just the LLV, the Lifelong Vitality Pack, but also the Terrazyme and the PB Assist. So really starting with that kit, doing some inflammatory takedown, and some of those oils from the rollerball would be the take home of where do I start to support myself if I think I'm having an issue with my thyroid.
Yeah, it just seems like every time we have one of these conversations, and you all tell me if you feel the same way, we talk about this big health condition and everything that's going on, and then we always come back to daily habits. Get on the Lifelong Vitality Pack, take those inflammatory foods out of your diet, drink more water, so it's not something that we're like planning necessarily. It's just that this is what works, and we've seen it work year after year after year. So it is a lot of information. And if you do feel overwhelmed, just lean into that. We have a kit. It's called the Healthy Habits Kit, the Daily Habits Protocol. And many of us are dedicated to that system, and we've been on it for years. And doTERRA has a new product coming out in a month, the Meta Power, which is partly a reformulation of Slim and Sassy and an expansion to create this whole suite of products that will be addressing our metabolic health. And metabolic health is what affects all of this and much more: brain fog, sleep issues, if you're dealing with extra weight that you want to release. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about that more and more. We have a little bit of time for our questions, and if anyone in the chat has a story with thyroid that they want to share, please put it through. I'd love to read your recipes and share it with the whole community. If there's anything that you want to add to the conversation, this is your time. And thank you, Louise, Dr. Rose, and Dr. Josie, for just everything that you gave us from the view that you have as naturopathic physicians. It's very helpful.
I guess I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I know it can be a long period, maybe not. Is there a period of time when you start, like, if you're lacking the nourishment and then you're trying to heal the gut and then you're trying to reabsorb the nutrients or get to the place where your body can then utilize all of that? What time frame could be like an approximate of like how long to expect to take? Because I think a lot of people, I would get impatient when you're healing, right?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we can have like realistic expectations. And I wish there was an answer that would fit everybody, but of course it takes a long time to get to dysfunction, and different people have different triggers and different pathways. But I would expect to be working on it for a good 6 months before you start to feel like maybe things are. It's like you're on a really big ship and you have to turn it around. You have to slow it down first, and then you have to turn it. And then once you get it pointed in the right direction, it takes a little while to pick up speed. But once you get going in the right direction, you'll really pick up speed after a while. And of course, healing is never linear. It's more like a spiral. So we that's why I still do like a detox in the spring and the fall every year. I learn something new every time I do it about myself. So it's sort of like every year I up level my health just another notch. But yeah, I would say, 3 to 6 months of that really intensive work that you're doing.
Dr. Rose, I just want to piggyback on that. And I say this a lot, and I'm going to say it again, and this is really coming from Dr. Hill, but we don't just wake up one day with these health issues. It's the small things that we've possibly done for a lifetime that get us a health issue. And then we have an expectation that in a couple of weeks it should be gone. Right? And so even when Dr. Rose said, well, it might take several months, when you think about that it took your whole entire lifetime to get here, you have to give it time and space to unwind and teach yourself new habits and make those diet changes and make those lifestyle changes. But it truly is those simple things that we do and that we begin to change over the long term will have a huge impact. And I speak from having Lyme disease myself and going through my own healing and the long process, but being in remission now 10 years later, I'm so much healthier now than I was 10 years ago. And that time is going to pass anyway. So you get to decide what you're going to do with that time. And are you going to keep going on the same trajectory of ill health, or are you going to make those daily changes to get yourself back on track? And the body is remarkable, and the repair and the changes that can happen when you actually give it what it needs: nutrition, stress reduction, exercise, sleep, water. I mean, they are these daily habits, these basics, but somehow in our society, it has become very difficult to, stick to this regimen. It's very difficult. So anyway, I'll pass it over to you, Erin.
It's great points that you're making, Aisha, and the way that I kind of look at it, I'm coming from a person who had a 3 to 4 Red Bull a day addiction. I was on the coffee for breakfast, wine, and chocolate for dinner diet, and like the most stressful job ever. And that was 14 years ago. And so over 14 years, it's like I've gone through mountains and valleys and peaks. But if you watch the trajectory of my journey, I get healthier and healthier. So for someone listening, if you're in the place where you're like, shoot, I go through the drive-through at least once a day, and I drink a lot of soda pop, and I was even a cigarette smoker. I just want you to have the knowledge that you can still change your health, and it doesn't have to be this black and white thing where all of a sudden tomorrow you're eating vegan and you're dropping all of your vices. As you start to take the Lifelong Vitality Pack and the essential oils, you're going to notice that you don't even crave those things anymore. I've helped countless people quit smoking that didn't even want to quit smoking. They had some other reason that they came to this lifestyle. And after a few months of it, they were just like, I just don't want the cigarette anymore. So that patience is important. And I think, to Contessa's question, hopefully what happens is you don't even care how much time goes by, because this is a lifestyle change. Hopefully what happens is you realize that you feel better when you make some diet changes and you add in some supplements. So I know people want to know how fast it's going to go, but my experience is that this is an ever unfolding journey, and I get better and better and healthier every day. We do have a recipe from Elisa Bonet, our speaker from last week. She has a thyroid recipe, which is 3 drops of frankincense, 1 drop of myrrh, 2 drops of clove, 2 drops of lemongrass, 1 drop of basil, 1 drop of marjoram in a 10 milliliter bottle with a roller top filled with fractionated coconut oil. She applies it 3 times a day to her thyroid on her neck and the bottom of her feet. So if you're wondering how you can get access to all these protocols we've been talking about, we put together the VL News every Wednesday, and it comes out afternoonish to your inbox. And in that email, you're going to get the recording of this call on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the places. And you will get a link to our Google Drive where we house all of the screenshots of these protocols. And maybe, Aisha, we could throw Elisa's protocol in there as well. So go to hellovisionary.life. You'll see a pop-up that says join the email list. Make sure you're on that email list, and you will get those Wednesday emails with access to the Google Drive so you can get all the protocols. Nikki Dean has a testimony. She says one of her clients was working with a naturopath on her borderline thyroid issues, and after 1 year on the Lifelong Vitality Pack, her numbers have regulated, and the naturopath said, keep doing what you're doing. I love that. It can be so simple. Looks like Elisa has another recipe for us, so we'll throw that in the email as well. And before we close up the call, what I would like to introduce to all of us, or we talked about it on the last episode, is doTERRA is releasing this new product suite, the Meta Power. And it's a collection of things like the Slim and Sassy oil reformulated in a capsule and a beadlet, marine collagen that also includes NMN, and a capsule that is called the Meta Power Assist. You take it with your food and it helps you to have balanced glucose levels. So these products are coming out in 1 month at the doTERRA convention. The only way you're going to be able to buy it for the best price. I also know the price, by the way. Who wants to know the price? $180 with 150 PV. So if you want to buy that kit, you have to be registered for in-person or virtual convention. So go and do that right now, doTERRA.com for the convention. And then if you would like to, Dr. Josie and some of us here on the call, we are going to have a metabolic reset pre-study. What that means is we're getting our blood tested right now. We're measuring our hips and our waist and all our measurements. We're taking before pictures. We're going to be putting out a questionnaire so you can rate what your energy is like, what your sleep is like. And once we get the products in September, we'll get the products around September 15th, then we're going to start taking them together. And we're going to document our results and we're going to come up with different protocols. And our goal is to have some great testimonies, some great before and after pictures. And when we do our annual cleanse in January, hopefully add that product line into it. People who've been on it for the last couple of months are having pretty cool results. Emily Wright's husband lost 3 inches in his pant size in just 2 months. Becca Nixon lost 30 pounds in 90 days. Emily Wright says her brain fog is totally gone. People are sleeping better. They're feeling like their skin is glowing. They're having really great recovery in their exercises. So if you want to get into that group, it's on Facebook. It's called Metabolic Reset Pre-Study by the Visionary Leaders. Come join us. And if you want to be the first to buy the product, get your ticket to conventions so you can buy the product. I am going to go ahead and close up our call today. Let's give a big thank you to Mandy and Amy for sharing your stories. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you
with us. Yes, yes. Let's thank Dr. Louise Rose and Dr. Josie Schmidt for their expertise. Thank you, thank you. And I just like to make sure if there's anyone new on the call that we cover some of the basics around essential oils. So we talked about essential oils in relation to those roller bottle blends that people are applying to their thyroid and their feet. What you must know about essential oils is, number one, they're safe. Number two, they're effective. They work like their stories told us. And we didn't mention this, but they are super affordable. I don't know if you've priced out what that roller bottle costs per drop, but I bet it's much cheaper than the alternative. And so that can be extremely helpful. There's 3 ways to use essential oils. We've been talking about topical. Dr. Louise Rose mentioned internal, that's putting the citrus oil in your water. We didn't talk about it a lot, but smelling them is so important. The aromatherapy aspect, especially when we're dealing with our hormones. We have parts of our brain that are activated by the aroma, actually helps to regulate our hormones. So make sure you're smelling them too. And as you know, we love doTERRA. We're really only talking about doTERRA essential oils here. Most essential oils on the marketplace are not pure. They are not effective. They are not going to work the way that we're talking about it. But because we have doTERRA, doTERRA is dedicated to purity and potency. They're dedicated to sustainability, so you know that the farmers and growers are being taken care of. And they're dedicated to leadership. They're wellness advocates. That's what some of us are called if we've taken this on as a bit of a mission or a job to teach people about this style of living. They want us to be free to give. So if you're ready to start bringing these products into your life, because there's so many cool oils in the roller bottle blend, I would probably recommend that you do the build your own kit. So you can choose products, and if they reach $150, your wholesale membership fee is waived. That's normally $35. You can get it for free. So you could probably put the Lifelong Vitality Pack in there, the oils in the roller bottle blend, maybe Terrazyme, PB Assist, Mito2 Max, some things like that. You're going to want to talk to the person who shared this podcast with you to get the full support. If you don't have someone, please email one of us. Our email addresses are in the show notes. So next Monday, like we mentioned, at 5 p.m., we're going to be hearing from Diane Del Reyes. She's sharing her oil acu framework so that you can learn where to apply the essential oils for the most power. And like I mentioned, that mission of being free to give, I definitely want to make sure that you know, if you like sharing this, if you're like thinking about people and you're sending out the podcast, be set up with a doTERRA Wellness Advocate account so you can earn a commission. Many of us get our oils paid for. We earn a little extra money. We're going to be bringing you some episodes about that so you can hear stories of what people do with the doTERRA income that they create and what's possible for you. As we close, we just want you to know that we love learning with all of you. We love growing. Every time we have one of these calls, there's big aha moments, and it is our pleasure to put it together for you. So keep living that healthy lifestyle. Baby steps. It's about progress, not perfection. And we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.